afternoon, everybody. I am back with another fantastic movie review. And today I'm here to share my thoughts on a movie musical that I assumed you guys probably never even heard of before until watching this review called Hairspray. Now, you might be wondering what this is about. Well, don't worry. I have the description on my old phone here. And yeah, for some reason, on the back of the DVD, it doesn't explain what the plot was. I guess it's just describing how great it is. Just plain fun. It looks just right and sounds just right, and it feels just right. So, like I said, I'm gonna be reading off the description on my old phone here. So, set in 1962 Baltimore, Maryland, the film follows the pleasantly plump teenager Tracey Turnblad. Boy, what a name! As she pursues stardom as a dancer on a local television dance show and rallies against racial segregation. Yeah, so I'm guessing back in the 60s, racism was sort of a bit of a big deal. Back in the 1960s of the world. I mean, if you guys have ever studied history, you probably know what I mean. And I'm not gonna lie, this is actually quite a fun movie. I mean, seriously, there's just a lot of things to like about this movie. It does have a great plot to follow with a beginning, middle, and end. The music is fantastic. It's kind of like a historical lamb. It does have a great history lesson about how black people and white people were sort of different from each other back in the 60s. Oh, no, I'm not trying to be racist or anything. I'm just stating facts. And I gotta admit, this movie can be very hilarious at times. I mean, seriously. Not gonna lie, and I didn't know much about this movie growing up. In fact, the only time I was somewhat introduced to this movie was probably Hairspray Live, which came out, I think, 9 years later. And then I think in Hairspray Live, it had some people that I recognize, Kristen Chadwick and Peyton List. That was the only piece of Hairspray inspiration I got from. So I never actually had any problems with this movie. I still like how it takes place in the early 60s. And I like how each of the characters are part of this dance television telethon that's being aired on television across the world. Now, this movie can get a little bit serious at times. I already mentioned one of the things about why it's a little serious. Well, I guess back in the 60s, I guess that was a time when white people and black people didn't go to the same buildings and whatnot. Well, technically they did, but I think it was sort of divided or something. Again, I'm not being offensive. I'm just trying to state my own facts about it. Now, I was able to recognize some of the people in this movie, like John Travolta. Yeah, I dare you to guess which one of these characters he is playing. I dare you to guess which one of these guys is it's John Travolta, because I know him from the movie Grease, which is a movie I also reviewed. I was also able to recognize Christopher Walken, Michelle Pfeiffer, who I think was in Batman Returns as Catwoman, if I'm correct, and Queen Latifah. Now, I don't know much about Queen Latifah's career in general. I think the only time I was familiar with her work was her appearing on Sesame Street and I think she was in The Muppets Wizard of Oz at some point. Which I think that movie came out 2 years before Hairspray did. This movie is just a real blast for all movie musical lovers out there. And I do like how she's trying her best to fit in and want to become like a famous dancer. Which I think back in the 60s, that is like a real... That was like a thing at some point. Which is pretty okay by me. I mean, being a famous dancer is not a bad thing at all. You know? And I could tell that the entire cast and crew really seemed to have... I think the entire crew behind this movie must have had a real good time with this movie. And I don't blame them. I bet they really worked so hard to make this movie great. And in case you guys are wondering which one of these characters look like John Travolta, well, yeah, believe it or not, that is John Travolta himself playing Tracey's mother. I'm not gonna lie, I almost didn't recognize him in that costume. I guess back in the late 2000s, dressing in drag must have been pretty funny in movies. Now, I don't know John Travolta personally, but I think this might be the first time in his movie career where he would get to dress in drag. Oh man, I mean, you gotta do something a little creative. Yeah, and well, this movie, like I said, this movie is also a little bit... It's also very, very serious. And doesn't hurt to tackle some serious issues, mainly racism. Especially how Queen Latifah and the rest of her black friends were a little bit upset about, well, the you-know-what word day is over. And how none of them won't be able to be a part of the dance show. Which I will admit, that is a little bit heartbreaking. It is a little bit heartbreaking to know about this. But that doesn't stop them from trying to be a part of it. Of course, they would have to do a little bit of protesting, which would probably get them into a bit of trouble with the police. Hey, I'm just stating facts here, and I'm just mentioning what I know about. I'm just mentioning what I just know from the movie, okay? I'm not trying to be offensive or anything. I'm just doing my best to describe this movie, okay? And if I somehow offend so many people without apologizing, without realizing, I am terribly, terribly sorry, okay? And, okay, I have a feeling that this part of the review is gotta be taken out of context to make it look like I am being offensive without trying to. Oh dear. Hopefully you guys understand what I'm saying. Actually, okay, moving on from the seriousness, because I don't want to get into all sorts of trouble. I do like the grand finale of the movie where Tracey has to get help from her parents and her best friend to win the dance competition. Of course, it was... And even though she probably didn't win, at least she had a good time. And I'm glad this guy's little sister got a chance to be a part of the show as well. And Tracey came up with a sneaky way to get in the building by disguising herself in a hollow container in the shape of a spray can to get inside the building, while her father became the decoy. Okay, that's just that's some clever Bugs Bunny writing right there. Yeah, I guess this movie does have a lot of slapstick humor. Especially when Tracey's father owns a joke store. And I guess there are times where Tracey's mother is a little bit concerned about what Tracey is going through, you know? And who said life is easy, you know? Life isn't always that cracked out to be. Life isn't a real snap of the wrist. So anyways, I honestly think Hairspray is one of the greatest movie musicals ever. I think this might be my number one favorite. Okay, I might have to do an update on my top something favorite movie musicals because right now, this is probably number one, or okay, make that number two on my top four favorite movie musicals. The first being The Blues Brothers, third being Rocky Horror Picture Show, and the fourth being Little Shop of Horrors. Oh man. I still like how it takes place in 1962, a groovy era of the world. So overall, I'll give Hairspray 5 golden tap shoes out of 5. Alright, before I wrap this up, I was able to find out that there was a different Hairspray movie that came out all the way back in 1988. So I'm guessing the version I was watching was probably the remake that came out in 2007. Man, that's pretty wild. So I guess I somehow watched the 1988 trailer of the movie of the same name and just ended up watching the 2007 remake version. I guess we all gotta expect something, huh? Man, I honestly didn't know that there was already another Hairspray movie, so I guess that technically means there's 3 Hairspray the musical movies. One in 1988, one in 2007, and another in 2016. Man, we all gotta learn something.